Hello and welcome back, and today we're going to continue looking at PlayStation 5, and I want to show you guys 5 ways to free up some space on your PlayStation 5, because a number of us are still waiting on the storage expansion of that device, the expansion slot there, that little M2 NVMe, to get enabled. And in the meantime, the console's like 6 months old, give or take now, and we are running out of space. Now, Sony have, in their latest firmware, added a few extra bits and bobs to save space, but today I'm going to show you 5 ways to save a great deal of space within this system. Some of them small, some of them big, and a couple of them I think a number of you may not even have thought of. But let's take a deep dive straight into my PlayStation 5 and go through some of the options to save a bunch of space. Okay, so here we are on the desktop of my PlayStation 5, looking at the GUI here, and we're going to go through all 5 ways to save a whole lot of space on your PS5 storage. First one, again, relatively recent feature, but it is worth touching on, is that you can move games that are PS5 onto your external storage now. If we look at Soulstorm here, for example, we can go ahead and move a game over to extended storage. So that's thing number one you can do. You can move games over to the external storage nice and easily. And if you have a look, now they can support PS5 Moving. That is a way to save a decent chunk of space. Games like Soulstorm and Maneater aren't huge, but once you look at some of the Modern Warfare and some of the other games like that that have hundreds of gigabytes, that is a tremendous saving possible there. Now, the next way to save a lot of data on your system involves game updates. If you go into the settings menu here and you scroll on down and you go down to save data and game app settings, a number of you aren't aware that when you go down into automatic updates, you can actually disable the auto update of games. You can make sure that not so much the system software, which you should always update to the latest version, but individual games also have their own periodic updates, and without knowing it, you might be installing huge amounts of updates, giant updates, for games you're not even playing. They're just sat there on your storage, not doing anything. And even in this unused state, they're still gathering up lots of space. So turn off the auto download option there, and that means you only download the updates to the games you actually want to play, not download updates that are tens, if not hundreds of gigabytes in some places, or towards games that will make things harder for yourself down the line. Next one to look at is to do with save data. It's here at the top. When we go back to the old days of PS1 and we think about the memory card at 1.5 meg, I think it was, or 15 megabytes, and we thought about just how small save games are, the latest generation of save games in both PS4 and PS5 are absolutely huge. And because you've got options of cloud space and options of external storage space, it actually can be very advantageous to go ahead and transfer your save games either to the cloud or onto external storage. Now, you can't move PS5 save games over to the external storage yet, but you can do it to sending it to the cloud on PS5 games. And as you can see there on screen, 31 megabytes, 22 megabytes, 55 megabytes, it may not seem like much, but 1 gigabyte is 1,000 megs, or 1,024. So they actually can get quite large indeed. If we have a look at some of these options and list them by size, you can see that some of these 66, 55, they're quite large save games. And if you select all, you can see even in just PS5 games, that's 187 meg, or approximately close to 20% of a gigabyte. And we could upload those to the cloud if we choose. You can delete them, but I wouldn't recommend that. Now on PS4 you can do it, of course, where you go into the console storage there for PS4 games. You can look at the save space, you can look at the general storage space, and what you'll find is the PS4 games that you may have migrated over from your previous system, these are huge numbers of saves. So if we go there once again and list by size, we can see that some of these games from the PS4 era have got massive amounts of data. Some games, as you can see, the games that we can transfer over there, they're pretty large. And if we look at the storage data there, we can see that that is 8.93 gigabytes of data. That's an enormous amount of data there being used by those save games. And all of these save games could be moved over to the USB or uploaded to cloud and potentially save, in my case, another 8 gigabytes of data. And that's just save games, remember. Now, The next way to save quite a lot of space on your PlayStation 5 is a setting that you need to turn off, and that is to do with media. By default, when you get your PS5, every trophy you collect ends up creating a 15-second recording. As you can see, 8.60 gigabytes of data. And as you can see, some of these recordings are pretty large. This is a 15-second standard share, and as you can see, that's 1.23 gigabytes. But some of these trophies here that are 30 seconds long, we can go ahead and look at that information, and as a 30-second clip, that's already 62 megabytes of storage. Once you spread that over all of these files, you are able to see an enormous amount of data here. So if we select all, 365 trophy files there, and remember, if each of those is 50 meg, that's an enormous amount of storage space that we can remove by deleting that. But say you don't want to delete it, but moving forward you don't want all of your trophy data to be maintained, you can head into the captures and broadcast option here at the bottom. From there, select trophies, and as you can see on screen there, all my trophies are being saved as 30-second videos. You can go ahead and disable that if you want, or just set certain tier trophies like the most important golds and platinums to be recorded, and therefore you won't create these 30-second files. You can even change the duration if you choose, but it's still nice to know that we can disable that feature and once again not only save data and space in the future, but we've got the opportunity to remove it now. It's even worth highlighting that when you do make a recording, you can go ahead and change the recording quality of your broadcasts and the recording quality of those captures. So by lowering the quality sometimes, you can save even more space there by choosing more efficient files and formats to make sure that the recordings take as little space as possible. And finally, there is of course a very small option to do with PS4 games. If you are migrating your PS4 games or buying new PS4 games, a number of people still don't realise that you have to tick this box here to make sure that your PS4 games automatically get sent to the external USB drive. If you don't tick this box, it will end up that all of your PS4 games will go directly into the console storage and be listed as games and apps. As you can see here, we've got a game here at 1.96 gig, which is on the PS4 content. So again, make sure you go into the USB extended storage setting and make sure that box is ticked. And that means none of the data from those PS4 games, from updates to the main game data itself, will be utilizing any of that space. But that is 5 ways to maximize the space on your PS5 and claim back some of those gigabytes. Remember, move your PS5 games over to an external drive if you choose. Turn off auto updates within the settings options there in the game data and save data options. Make sure that your game saves are in the right locations or indeed backed up to the cloud. Make sure you disable all of the trophy recordings, or go ahead and just trim down the quality of them or delete them straight from the multimedia box there. And finally, always make sure that your PS4 games are being installed on the external drive. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I'm going to be covering PS5 and storage as soon as they enable that feature, and I have got an absolute myriad of NVMe M2 SSDs to test on the PS5 system as soon as the feature is enabled in another firmware update this summer. Thank you so much for watching. Click like if you've enjoyed the video. Subscribe to stay abreast of those extra drives as we test each one, and I will see you next time.